Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about right here on Coffee with Craig. Please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can, they'll know where you're at each morning at 9 a.m. Also, please, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as follow us on Facebook so that you can get the alerts as soon as we go live. So check them out, help us out, help us to be able to grow our numbers and be able to get the word out. Anyway, also want to encourage you, please go to fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is the number one place to go to find pro Second Amendment swag. And know that every dollar that you spend doesn't just go out there into someone's pocket. It actually goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. All right. Talking about advocacy, many of you know that we come right here from the great state of California. Okay, maybe the not so great state of California when it comes to gun rights. But recently, we had a visit from one of the most anti-gun, the leaders of the anti-gun movement, Ms. Gifford, head of the Gifford Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. And she decided to come visit the state of California as they decided to put together a working group to fight gun violence here in the great state of California. Check it out.
I'm proud today to announce the formation of a new gun violence prevention working group here in the state legislature. And today, these members up here are officially inviting our colleagues to join this working group, work with us to craft new laws, work with us to put together a legislative package that we can take to our governor, Governor Newsom, so that we can make a meaningful difference on this issue. We are so honored to welcome her here today. She is an inspiration and a recognized and exceptional national leader on this issue. She has her team here from the Giffords Center, and they've been advising us. I'm really proud to have introduced two pieces of legislation that are sponsored by the Giffords Law Center. So having her here is just a great way to draw attention to this issue. Folks really follow her and look up to her, and so we're really pleased to welcome her to Sacramento today.
Stopping gun violence takes courage. The courage to do what's right, the courage to new ideas. I've seen great courage when my life is on the line. Now is the time to come together, be responsible. Democrats, Republicans, everyone. We must never stop fighting. Fight, fight, fight. Be bold, be courageous. The nation's counting on you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm a father of two kids under 4. And there's a lot of us who've been involved in these efforts, who've been involved in organizing this working group that are parents. We worry a lot about our kids. We worry a lot about the other kids in the state of California who can become the victims of gun violence. And that is a perspective that we are taking into this issue. We are frustrated and fed up by the inaction in Washington. And so we are committed to making sure that the state of California is a national leader on school safety and a national leader on protecting young people from gun violence. And that is what we intend to do with our working group.
All right, so first of all, let's just note that they call this a quote-unquote working group, but these are the same anti-gun legislators who've been, for years, have been introducing and reintroducing legislation to seek to take away our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. You had included in that working group Mr. Mike Gibson. Mike Gibson introduced a bill that would have redefined a block of aluminum as a firearm. It would have basically labeled it as being a firearm and would have subjected it to all of the very same requirements as any other firearm, although I don't know how a block of aluminum is a firearm. Of course, then again, he couldn't explain that bill either. He's also the guy who introduced a bill that would have required serial numbers and registration and background checks for every single firearm part that you purchase in the state of California. They call them precursor parts, but he couldn't really tell you what those precursor parts were because, well, he just doesn't know what he's talking about or what he's doing. It also included Assemblyman Mark Levine, who recently penned an op-ed in the Los Angeles Times because people would dare to write him and call him and post on his Facebook page saying that because you are trying to take away our rights, you are a tyrant, because that's what tyrants do. Tyrants seek to take away the ability of their people, of their subjects, to be able to defend themselves. And so because they said that the things that they are doing are tyrannical, he said he was being intimidated by people, and he was not going to be intimidated because he was a big boy. So you had him, and he's introduced a number of pieces of anti-gun legislation. You have Nancy Skinner, who literally, I am proud to say that if there is a lobbyist that Nancy Skinner hates, it's probably me, because, every time I look at her, she scowls at me like the Wicked Witch of the West. Oh, I'm going to get you and your guns too. Yeah, Nancy Skinner. Oh, by the way, basically changes the rules whenever we come up to testify. 1 minute it's, okay, we're going to allow everyone to testify. And the next minute it's, you only get two people in 2 minutes each. But, she does stuff like that. Anyway, then you've got Miss Hannah Beth Jackson, who's decided loves every single time saying, it's not an unlimited right. The right to keep and bear arms is not an unlimited right. You don't get to yell fire in a theater. When in fact, yes, you do get to yell fire in a theater, in particular if there is a fire. But most importantly, we don't put duct tape on people's mouths as they walk into the theater, which is basically what she wants to do through the legislation that she introduces. But at the same time, she ignores the facts and ignores reality. But anyway, so you can see, and then there's Senator Portantino, who seems to think that restricting how many guns you can buy a month, there's nothing controversial about that. Who seems to think that we ought to be enacting laws making it almost impossible for people to be able to exercise the right to keep and bear arms. He seems to think that those are reasonable restrictions. Introduced several bills that have been vetoed multiple times by Democratic Governor Jerry Brown. But once again, he doesn't care, because, guess what? Now he's got Gavin Newsom, who is dumb as a box of rocks and has basically just decided that this is a PR stunt. Well, let me clarify. I'm not going to say he's dumb as a box of rocks. I'm going to say that he is immoral. I'm going to say that he doesn't care about the issue. He just wants to use it as a way in which to pad his political career. So it's a PR position for him. And he doesn't care about guns, doesn't like people who do like guns. So he is going to sign whatever gets to his desk. You've got folks who've advocated for anti-gun research who are in this working committee. Anyway, there's nothing new here. What's also interesting about this particular group, and I don't know if you guys had a chance to notice this, but recently Gifford actually did they do grades every year. Every year they grade groups on where they stand on quote unquote banning guns, or however you want to put it, wherever they stand on banning guns or anything along those lines, on their gun violence legislation. That's it. That's the actual appropriate term. So they rate them, and they rate all of the various different states. And interestingly, California generally does pretty good. In fact, most recently, California actually did outstanding in their on this particular rating. And I want to show you that real quick, but I got to get it here. Here we go. Okay. So if you notice right here, you notice all of these other states. Now they have the states that did poorly. They have the states here that did well. But notice that California is in a class of its own, because while California actually already has some of the strictest gun laws now in the country, they went even further in trying to include more anti-gun legislation in 2018. And now that we've elected a fully anti-gun governor, they're projecting that they're going to do even more in the state of California. But my question, and this is the thing that I find to be quite interesting about this particular concept and what it is that they're talking about, and what it is they're talking about here is, so if they're talking about common sense gun regulations, right? We'll go back to we know that none of this stuff is common sense. It is not common sense when you don't know what you're talking about. It's like if I don't know anything about cars and I'm going to prescribe a common sense solution to fixing my car. Well, if I know nothing about cars, then how can it be common sense? It could be common nonsense, which is pretty much what they like to do. They do like to put forth common nonsense. But why do we need more? See, we have the most, and it didn't stop the borderline shooting. It didn't stop the San Bernardino shooting. It didn't stop the Tehama County shooting. It didn't stop the shooting the shooting at the warehouse in San Francisco. I mean, I could go on and on about the number of shootings that it didn't stop all of these gun laws. But yet and still, so the solution to stopping something we haven't stopped with something that hasn't stopped it is to introduce more of what hasn't worked. You want to stop something? You want to introduce more of what already hasn't worked. That is the definition of, the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Welcome to the California Legislature and Gabby Giffords. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate you guys. You know, we don't do this. We can't do this without you and without your support. So remember, please tell your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.